Outlander Season 7, Part 2, has officially kicked off with Episode 9, setting up the continued story with an intriguing ending. The mid-season premiere comes after more than a year's wait, with Outlander Season 7, Part 1, having concluded back in August 2023. Now, it's finally time to continue this chapter. Jamie, Claire, and young Ian have officially arrived home in Scotland, though only temporarily, while Roger has set out in search of his abducted son, Jemmy. Of course, it's not long before both stories hit some roadblocks. By the end of Outlander Season 7, Episode 9, Claire has gotten word from Lord John Grey, begging her to return to the colonies to perform life-saving surgery on his nephew Henry. She is hesitant to go since Ian Murray Sr. is on his deathbed, but Jenny urges Claire to go and encourages young Ian to go with him. Roger, on the other hand, quickly realizes that he has gone back much further in time than before and runs into several unexpected characters. This Outlander episode ends as Roger comes face to face with the most surprising of all, Jalis Duncan. When and where Roger is, and Jalis' return explained. Roger turned up in a different time than he expected. Outlander Jalis insane. After going through the stones, Roger and Buck began searching the Scottish countryside for Jemmy, believing they had landed in the 1770s, Jamie and Claire's present. However, when Roger headed to Lallybroch, hoping that Jemmy might have tried to return home, he was surprised to be greeted not by Ian Murray but by Brian Fraser, Jamie's father. It seems he arrived when Jamie was at university in France, so around 1739 or 1940. This is several years before Claire ever travelled back in time and a new era for Outlander's Central Time Travelers. Of course, it seems that one traveller has managed to get back to this time before Roger. Near the end of Outlander Season 7, Episode 9, Roger receives word that Buck is ill, and he heads to a local healer, only to discover that she is Jalis Duncan. This is the very same woman he had met in 20th century Scotland and whom Claire killed in 18th century Jamaica to stop her from murdering Brianna. Jalis' primary goal in Outlander has always been to ensure the Jacobite cause, and this is what led her to her death. However, Roger has now travelled back to a time when she is still alive and could potentially be a problem yet again. Why Claire is returning to America. Claire and Jamie are already separated at the end of Outlander S79. The other significant factor in Outlander Season 7, Episode 9's ending, is Claire's return to the American colonies. During her visit to Lallybroch, Claire received a letter from Lord John Grey explaining that his nephew Henry had been seriously injured in battle and needed surgery that only she could provide. Claire herself recognized that this was true but initially chose not to go since Ian Murray was on his deathbed. Jenny had already yelled at Claire, accusing her of being soulless because she could not cure Ian of consumption, tuberculosis. However, after some time to cool down, Jenny encouraged Claire to go. Henry was introduced previously in Outlander Season 7 as a beloved cousin of William, but he hasn't had much time on screen. Lord John explained that the boy was shot twice in the abdomen, and the damage must be so extensive that it is beyond the work of a typical 18th century surgeon. So, while Claire can't be of much use to Ian Murray, she could save Henry. Of course, this means another period of separation for her and Jamie going into the next episodes of Outlander Season 7. Ian's visit to Lallybroch has been bittersweet. The entire reason everyone ended up in the Americas, to begin with, was that young Ian had been kidnapped and sold into slavery, and he hadn't been back to Scotland since. However, he had developed roots in the colonies, establishing a place among the Cherokee. He even was married and had children, though one was lost as an infant, and the other had grown up without him. Still, the new world is where Ian's adult life has been spent and where his new love interest, Rachel, is there waiting with his dog Rollo. Still, Ian felt conflicted in Outlander Season 7, Episode 9. His father, Ian Sr., encouraged him to return to the Americas and let Rachel know how he feels. However, young Ian didn't want to leave when he knew his father was so close to death. As a way to reassure him, Jenny took Ian to Lallybroch's graveyard, where she showed him the grave she had erected for little Isabel, the baby Ian had lost in the New World. Jenny had never met or held Isabel, but her decision to place a grave for her granddaughter demonstrated that Ian's new life was still deeply connected to his home at Lallybroch. No matter where Ian goes, his heart will still be at home with his family. Jamie and Lafay's arrangement explained. Jamie and Lafay are finally free of one another. Lafay Outlander 1. Outlander Season 7, Episode 9 also saw the return of Lafay, one of the more despised characters of the series. Way back in Season 1, she caused a lot of problems for Claire, accusing her of being a witch and nearly getting her hanged because she was in love with Jamie. Then, when Claire travelled back to the 20th century, Jamie made the terrible decision to marry Lafay. Though some good came of this, such as Marzali meeting and marrying Fergus, it also resulted in a lot of drama upon Claire's return to the past. Since Jamie had married Claire first, his union with Lahair was annulled, but not without issue. Jamie remained the owner of Lafair's home and property following their annulment and was also required to pay her alimony. However, it's revealed in Outlander Season 7, Episode 9, that Jamie was permitted to reclaim his property and stop making payments if Lafair ever got remarried. For this reason, Lafair began an affair with the farmhand since she would lose her home and the security of her daughter if she were to be officially wed to him. This was a problem for Lafair's daughter Joan, who wished to become a nun but was forbidden to do so while her mother lived in sin.